Hello.
Hello.
There we are for the last time this year.
This year, yeah. Let me just change the background real quick. Hello, everyone. It's been a while.
Going?
There we go. So, 2024. We're wrapping up today, in the sense that we're talking about what the year looked like from our perspective, the last 12 months, and what we're looking to change or what we're looking to improve in the next year. It's gonna to make it even more fun. What are you focusing on, Adrian? How was your year? What are you focusing on? Like, how was?
Well, I think that was one of the most interesting years, to say it in a let's say kind way, in a frank way. Interesting in terms of challenges, because there was a lot of unforeseen things, a lot of changes, a lot of thoughts, a lot of testing things, a lot of deciding for a long-term strategy. Because I came from let's say a little bit more than a decade of entrepreneurship, and it feels a little bit like I changed everything regarding from what I do with content, what I do with product, what I do with removing agency work and those kind of things. And it turned out that, of course, making decisions is a bold thing you need to do, and I did in the beginning of the year, pretty bold, as I said. I changed nearly everything, or we changed nearly everything, and we had to deal with the aftermath and the consequences, of course. And that's something I want to say to everyone who's doing or going through changes as well. Making the decision is the first step. It's extremely important to do that, but you need to be prepared for the time after the decision as well. So following through is not just a thing for some weeks and everything is fine. If you have something like that, it wasn't big change, right? If you have a real change where you definitely want to do something different in the future, you need to make sure that you can sustain that and that you can become comfortable with a very uncomfortable situation. And during the year, I was doing a lot of things regarding content as well. I wanted to try out content things. I wanted to do something on LinkedIn. I wanted to reach my 10K followers. I wanted to see what actually happens after that. I wanted to start to create more, let's say, more sophisticated video production on YouTube. I basically pushed my Substack a lot and those kind of things. Next to, of course, being a founder in a company and creating a SaaS product for larger German companies primarily. And that was quite a lot, to be honest. And I was of course knowing people like you who motivated me, other people as well, who told me, hey, that's a good idea, great idea, and I followed through, right? I was pretty consistent, so in long term, and I produced a ton of things this year, and in the end, I had a little bit of a burnout, to be honest. The last weeks I was pretty much silent. The reason for that was pretty much that it was a fast pace I had in the second half of the year, a very fast pace, driven by I need to get things done. I need to really get to the finish line now, and there was, let's say, some personal challenges in addition to that, suddenly appearing, those kind of things. And then I recognized that I don't have enough reserves, right, to actually handle everything, and then I needed to reprioritize, and that is another big learning from my side. Is you shouldn't be on the edge every day,
Yeah.
and I was pretty much most of the year, and it works as long as it works, and suddenly it doesn't anymore, and that is what I want to do a little bit differently next year. So I have created such a big feedback stream of so many things, of so many failures, so many successes at the same time. And I have a lot of information. In the last weeks, when I was more silent and I got my things done, I used the free time I had to actually think about that. I really mean
Yeah.
think. I'm not talking about resistance right now. I'm really was taking a look into statistics, taking a look into what I really want, and try to understand those things a little bit better, align that a little bit better with my company. And that is what I want to change for next year to make it more aligned to a higher goal and not too many smaller goals competing with each other. That
Yeah.
was, too many goals, and I wasn't very aligned on one specific mission. And that is what I personally want to change for me. That is not sustainable. And I know I'm a person who can sustain a lot, basically can take a lot and can bear a lot. I always could. That is one of my traits. But I know where it's the second time in my life where I found the limitations. And when you find them, it is already a bit too late to actually make it a smooth finding. It's most of the time a very hard finding for yourself because you are in the middle of some crisis situation. At least it feels like that. And you need to have some additional energy spent in order to get out of there again, right? And that is what I wanted to give you here right now. That no matter what you try to do, what you try to do with your life, if you want to become a great software engineer in a big company, if you want to become a entrepreneur yourself, if you want to become a solopreneur, it doesn't matter. You should always focus on one thing and make sure it's possible. All right. So don't fool yourself. You shouldn't be in a situation where you can't sustain it because you are basically not be able to pay your bills anymore, something like that. On the other spectrum, you shouldn't do too many things. Even though you might earn a lot of money with that, you might burn out because it's simply too much. You can't handle it. You're just a person. And you need to find a good middle ground and just play the long run, right?
Yeah.
And that's easier said than done, to be honest, because you need to find a lot of feedback yourself to actually find that kind of way.
It is.
And I simply believe that I have found a way for next year. Let's see next year how it works out.
Yeah.
How is it with you?
It was a good year, from the perspective of running experiments. Like I was wearing my entrepreneurial hat most of the time, and I didn't really entertain the idea of, let's say, doing my busiest activities, which is usually getting hired to code with someone. So I definitely went all in on if I can, I will monetize creating value by using my brain rather than coding. So I went all in on that. So I tried to experiment with many different avenues there. Revenue was good. I got a lot of revenue from all the activities that I sort of tried. It was different from last year. Last year, I went all in on a few clients, on like 3 big clients. That was interesting, but it was very difficult to replicate. It required, setting up and then being lucky with being ready for opportunity, and that was a little bit too unreliable for me. So I broke up that process and sort of really focused on streamlining the experience itself, so that I could offer it, so that I could offer like the biggest impact activity regarding coaching sooner and in a more accessible manner. Previously, my coaching was set up in such a way that it was focused on like one long-term relationship or 2 long-term relationships running in parallel. Now I made sort of that like meeting the problems at the level they're at, even if it's just scoping and prospecting the pain area of a team, much more heads-on and providing a lot more value upfront through other activities, which are also revenue generating. So my lead magnets, I went full 180 on. I'm not selling my lead magnets anymore. I'm giving them away for free. The newsletter, I'm still not sure on. I will definitely make a lot more of my newsletter content freely available, and then focus the paid stuff on everything that is a little bit more community driven and sort of has like a time component to it, where it's like sort of fresh, and experiments, of course. Like I think that's took a lot of inspiration from Kent Beck, so I think that's worth having on a paywall. And any article where I invest more than 20 hours into writing and researching, I will put a paywall somewhere, just not as aggressively as I used to, because it is not my primary focus, right? I'm not a full-time writer, so I don't want to monetize it like one, which means I also have I have little opportunity cost to giving away knowledge for free, because most of my value creation is from helping someone in the moment, not from writing. The writing is how they get to know me, so that we can create that relationship to be able to be there to support them. So I don't want to price my newsletter and the lead magnets as aggressively as I do the coaching. So that was a huge win. Let's see. Yeah, so you and I went full, like all in on streaming. That was great. So we got to explore this brand, our tech journey, and sort of all the logistics that went with it. Like who owns it? How do we do clips? Also various different phases of burnout and different nuances. Sometimes I was just doing too many experiments in parallel. Sometimes one engagement got too intense. Sometimes one, I just needed a break. So balancing that was definitely a fun journey. The biggest wins from this year were definitely the building, like scaling just the one-on-one aspect of coaching. So I was hyper focused on teams, and I saw that teams required a much more deliberate focus. So I hired a coach to help me with communication with teams. So I'm investing much more, let's say, quality now in how I'm approaching teams plural, right? So when I'm talking to a director of engineering or a CTO of a scale up, I'm changing my communication and how I'm approaching them. And the one-on-one coachings that I do directly or through mentor crews, those really lifted up. So I went from a few active clients to now having 10 like a dozen-ish on and off constantly, which is turning into a very reliable revenue stream. And I'm also using it to sort of leverage networking, referrals, testimonials, and it's my practice. So the more I do it, the more content I have that I can share. The newsletter was interesting. I noticed I didn't really post in the last few weeks. It's been getting difficult. However, I am ghostwriting for Grow CTO. So I said, hey, can I monetize writing? And I figured I could with Grow CTO, which is an interesting experiment. Like it's going well. Like it's authority building for a software engineering intelligence platform that is like that I'm very much aligned with regarding our views on the DORA metrics, on pair programming, on burnout, on PRs, on developer well-being. So I'm happy to contribute there and to sort of make that part of my sort of writing activity. And now I'm focusing a little bit more on TDD. So now I'm back to going over what worked well in this year, which is the TDD booklet and then everything that spawned, and now refreshing it, improving the writing on it a little bit. I said I would do it a long time ago, but I figured I'm doing a full review anyway on like the whole year's worth of coaching, and I don't know, and I think 400 sessions overall, which is a lot. Yeah, so there's that. Sorry, 400 hours worth of sessions. Right, so that's averages out about an hour-ish, hour and a half for each business day in the year. So it was really good. And then the rest was basically content writing, LinkedIn. LinkedIn, I'm on and off. I tried video. It was too time consuming. I can't afford to mimic people whose business model is full-time content creation and writing courses about how to do full-time content creation. Those are the most successful people on LinkedIn. I mean, from like a perspective, like that's what lands on my feed the most, and I can't mimic that model. Like I'm helping engineering leaders build products. Like I can't, I can't focus all of my intention into writing, because that's not where that's not where most of my value is.
I don't know, something tells me that we should mention the war of art now. I don't know. Something's mentioned. Something with a big B.
It's good to have you with us. I think, Kaloyan, you were here with us for almost every episode, so huge thanks for that. You're one of the most loyal regulars that we have, so huge thank you for being with us.
Still waiting for the t-shirts and sweatshirts.
Yeah, we did talk about merch, right?
But then I will only sell the merch via Cloudbar platform, to be honest.
Oh,
I need to set it up then. We'll do that. Really, I will do that in January. I just say that right now because we're actually done with the product now.
So from the perspective of, I experimented a lot with my product. I gained a lot of inspiration again from one of my coaches, from Jonathan Stark. He had a huge influence on me as a solopreneur. What I started working on now is I don't want to be boring, like I love the conversations that I have with the engineering leaders and the impact it's having on their teams. I just hate the boring setup. I started off really boring. Here's a monthly subscription. We meet every week, and right, and it's engaging, right? But it's once you get used to it and it becomes routine, it's like it loses its charm. I loved when I'm attached to the team and I'm just, I'm breathing and living the team, which is that big. It's my high ticket offer for team coaching. But I really missed that in one-on-one coaching. So I started with an experiment a few months ago that now is, I think, now signing the 4th client that responded positively to this experiment, which is I'm starting to value price the coaching engagement itself, at least the first phase of the coaching engagement. So rather than just having a subscription and we just waffle on, on every session and focus on weekly wins, that still exists. Like that is still effective because I know how to focus, but I'm focusing it more on like a discovery process. So I've sort of took on more risk. So what I started doing with the initial relationship is that I started selling it in a way where I come in, because usually I describe it, they ask me how does coaching look like, and I describe it as I come in and I ask stupid questions because I don't know if I can help you, right? I don't know if I can help you. I don't know if you can be helped. And I don't know which of the help is the most important right now, right? So I come in at the risk of appearing naive, and I just absorb your culture like a sponge. And then I basically, overlap it with my experience and give you some options. And this first phase is usually, it was like a very clumsy, like honeymoon period, like first few months usually during coaching. And now I just offered it flat. As a risk, as an experiment, and it's seeming to work really well. So I just say, look, you pay me a fixed amount for us to build a case, and we will build a case, and we'll try to figure out, can I even help you, and what makes sense. And this case building can take as long as it needs. So I don't charge monthly. I just charge you once, and we build a case. Maybe we build a case in 2 weeks. Maybe we build a case in 6 months, and it's just going to be asynchronous communication. Or we determine that, yes, I can give you some free advice. I can hear you out in a few calls. And then over time, we can just let it go and see that, okay, this was enough. There's no case here. Well, value well spent. There's no regrets of like signing up for recurring coaching and then canceling it, or then being on and off, because that's the worst. So I started doing that now. And then we basically kickstart and price the monthly coaching when we have set the goals, and that can take as long as you want. So that has worked really well because I'm taking a little bit more risk and I'm helping them figure out, okay, do they want to meet with me weekly? Do they want to meet with me in like a product capacity, like stakeholder capacity, engineering capacity, a little bit of everything? What cadence makes sense? How many people do you want to involve? And I just price them that as a package, like as a discovery phase that isn't time boxed, because I noticed that my clients are naturally busy people. So I don't have to tell them to go away, right? Like I don't have to tell them that, hey, you've used too many hours, right? Because they're naturally busy, right? So I don't have to enforce.
They want to go after a while. It's like,
yes, they want to go after a while. So I don't have to enforce these limits. So I said, I'm just going to give you a limitless package where you get access to me. And then if you need a call, we can do a call. I mean, within limits, of course, like within business hours, within, like give me some warning so I'm not under the shower. But it's just the basic idea of you're busy, I'm busy. Like, why would we treat each other like lawyer? Like, I'm not a lawyer. Like, I don't need to take advantage of you needing my services on an hourly basis. And the response to that was surprisingly positive. So yeah,
I think that's the reason is that many people, and this is what I see as well when I help people, is that it can become stress for people when they need to have some guidance, and they need to have immediate feedback and to help them find the right way, right? How to proceed right now. But they actually, as you said, they have other things to do. They have other challenges. They had other things on the plate. Things that in the back of their head, which already stresses them when they try to think, oh, after that meeting I need to go in that one, and they actually want to go to a point. And I think that is a very important thing to understand, that's first of all, that is the interesting client, because that is a person who really does have a problem which needs to be solved. That is the very basis of something you need to do. And on the other hand, that is actually the best relationship, because you don't really need to have something hourly. And most people who I worked with in that way said it actually doesn't matter if we have this meeting this week or next meeting two
Yeah,
next week two
exactly.
meetings. It is a
Exactly.
long-term thing, and we want to change something. It
Yeah.
is not about the hour. It is not about the day or something like that. And that's actually, let's say, when it comes to these days where you need to
Hmm.
do something in one day and then you have it fixed and you need to do that and need to
Hmm.
go, that is oftentimes not that sophisticated and not really that, let's say,
Hmm.
not even that dedicated. It feels dedicated because you have this time slot, but in reality
Hmm.
it's a little bit like everyone feels like I need to go to the time slot right now,
Yeah.
even though I might not have a thing right now, and next day there is something where I need help, but we don't have a time slot. And so I
Hmm.
need to wait for that until next week, or I need to change the entire contract. And those
Hmm.
kind of
Hmm.
things
Hmm.
are actually a little bit rigid and
Or
cloudy.
move them around, or say, "Oh, I'm extending the contract by a week because we skipped one, or there was
But
like a
that's
holiday, and now."
complicated. That's so
And that's
complicated.
super annoying because there you need annexes for contracts constantly, or your platform to track that. That's what I was trying to get away from. I just say, look, you get support. Yes, we need to time box it for legal reasons, like for practicality reasons. Like there needs to be some, some constraints, but that doesn't mean that the value is provided with the same cadence, right? So I don't want the value to be a function of the payment cadence, because that's just silly. Because then it can always be tracked back to some needless hourly conundrum of, it's like I have my call with Dennis. Is it allowed to be this long, or should we meet next week? Like, what do I do if I have to skip one? Is it disrespectful, right? So, is this? Yeah, I had a similar experience where what I really wanted with the team is to say, hey, I don't want the team to meet with me when they're busy, because they won't pay attention, right? So when they're super busy to the degree that they can't meet with me for an hour and they wanted coaching, I need to meet with the leader, because the busyness is a leadership problem, right? If they can't find an hour in a week that they could actually fully devote their attention to. So I said, look, I'm going to cancel these meetings at some point when I see that it's being ineffective. I also said, people ask me for workshops. It was funny. My first ever lead from Slovenia, from like my in person, having a conversation with a real human being face to face, was a few weeks ago. My first ever Slovenian lead, like a Slovenian local company, not not a Slovenian person. And they just asked me, what does this look like? Is this like a workshop? And I told them that, well, no, I tried workshops. I know from experience, and I got the data to back it up, that if I host a workshop, you spend a lot of time and a lot of dedication, and a lot of like unblock, like maybe a day or maybe like two large blocks in a day. And after the workshop, it will have 2-4% efficacy. So the time and money you spend in two out of 100 people, or two out of the 100 things that I talk about will have some small minor impact on your company. And it's a waste of time, because if you want to scale that up, then we need to constantly have workshops. And it's weird because then you have these like intense
Yeah, but
time blocks.
the more constantly you become, the shorter the sessions will become. So you can
Yes,
start with short
yes,
sessions and make them
yes,
asynchronous. Hey, I need
yes,
help now. Could you have? Yeah, we
absolutely.
can meet in 2 hours for
Yes,
15 minutes, and then we discuss if we need
yeah,
to have more time to discuss that tomorrow or something
exactly,
like that. Because
exactly.
oftentimes you don't work with people who don't understand what you're talking about. They
Yes,
understand very well what you're talking about, and you oftentimes it's just 15 minutes in a very special moment, but
yes,
you need to
yes.
have a just a possibility. So it is a little bit old school. It is a little bit like, hey, just phone me, right? Just
Yeah,
phone me when you have a
yeah,
problem. So in the
yeah.
last 2 years, that is what I saw since, or actually 3 years, since COVID. People tend to not phone anymore. People tend to ask for, can we schedule a meeting?
I
It's a
have
little,
fixed this problem. I have
yeah.
a coaching Slack, and when people want to meet, they're on my Slack, and they can just call me on a huddle.
Exactly. And this
Uh,
is so important to be open to, hey, just call me.
yeah,
And
just
yeah,
call
it
me.
is sometimes a little bit annoying, but with modern technology, it must not be the phone. So
Yeah,
it should be some form of where you can block things, where you can set yourself to do not disturb, something like that, so you
yeah,
can
yeah.
call back.
Or
So
automate the message, right? Or like
exactly, but
seamlessly transition from asynchronous video to asynchronous text to synchronous video, right? So
But
just
in the end, there is nothing more annoying than to not get things done a day. And the point is, people think that, hey, when I don't have my scheduled meetings and I need to block them through the
mhm,
entire week, so I'm overwhelmed with work, you won't get done things anyway. You need to have some spare time in between every meeting to
mhm,
actually tackle the unforeseen things, the
yeah,
feedback which is coming in. This is how you actually work effectively. That
mhm,
is, in conclusion, what was my problem this year. So I was
mhm,
constantly at the 100% limitation, right? So there was no spare time to actually and effectively work on the feedback I got from all the streams, right? So this is what I've done in the last weeks then on blog, which is not a good idea. So you should do that constantly, in order to have a good life. And that is the same with building a product. So I am building a product with my colleagues together. And the point is, you need to be constantly rethinking things. You need to be constantly working and talking with stakeholders, with clients, with users, with colleagues about the things, but not in, hey, let's meet in 2 weeks and we meet for half an hour and maybe you are in the mood on that day to talk about that. It must be something like, when, for example, a client says, hey, I have feedback, I'm using something right now, and then you urge them to just call me. It might be a little bit annoying that someone is calling you right now while you want to do something else, but the value is so big, you need to have it right now and not post it into an email, and then on some day later the person already forgot and doesn't really want to talk about this. Yeah, you need to just do
yeah.
that or something like that. It must be like interesting in that moment still, so that you really can do something with that valuable feedback right now.
What
And
what
that is
I
one of the biggest learnings. Yeah.
another learning that another successful experiment that I did a few weeks ago with one of my clients.
Mm.
I am coaching the leader one-on-one, and it's a small team that works asynchronously. It's a remote first company, so it's very rare for them to sync up for like huge meetings. So team coaching was out of the question because I couldn't easily attach myself to, the thing was so fragmented that the thing itself would have to change in order to accommodate for me. So I said, okay, let's just keep it one-on-one because otherwise it's too artificial. Like it's a too big logistic hurdle to get everybody across all time zones synced up for consecutive days. So over time, they told me, can we make this faster? And I said, well, no, not without significantly changing your organization. Do you want to do that? No, then we'll do it when the time comes. Then a few months in, I mean, it's been almost a year. Like now in autumn, we started this idea of, hey, maybe it's time for they started continuous delivery, getting their release cadence up, going from monthly releases to weekly, and now going into this, we just want to release on demand. Like when it's ready, we just want to be able to hit the button, and like it shouldn't be that complicated. And made huge strides towards that while also growing their business and growing their man count and everything, right? So the processes were not ready, but we're improving the processes as they're improving the scale of the company, which is, I think, a really tight,
Mm-hmm.
like it's a really tight balance, but I think we're handling it really, really well. And then they said, okay, now that we have all these initiatives going, continuous delivery, testing, now let's have a workshop. And I said, and they knew, like, Dennis hates workshops. Dennis will say, but workshops are ineffective, right? So like, ooh. And I said, no, but this is different. Because I've been coaching you guys. I know you guys. Like I know you, you know me. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
have much contact with the team. I know your CEO. Like it's we're tight, and I know your problems. So I said, let's not make it a workshop. Let's make it a learning week, right? And I did usually what I do for introductions to a team engagement, right? So I do a survey. That's a situation check. Then I reach out to them asynchronously to tell me if they agree with the situation, with my assessment of the situation. Then we have a workshop. It's usually 2 hours where I present something and then they can ask questions. And I tell them to prepare practical problems they've encountered this week if my situational assessment was correct. We talk about that. We set an intention, like what is impossible now and what do you want to make it more possible this week? I don't talk about anything that won't be practical this week. And then we put that into practice for this week. I don't engage with them actively during the week. I'm just available if they have any questions. And I follow up with them a week later based on what happened and what didn't happen and what problems they encountered. And then that's what I call a workshop, like those 10 days. And we have very few touch points, and most of it is asynchronous, and only the intense part is synchronous and intense and a meeting, and only people who have actual questions show up for the meeting, right? So it has this opt-in element. So I will opt in if I have a problem. I help them situate the problem, and then I explain to them how to bring it to me, and then I give them a time slot to bring it to me, and then they bring it to me, and then we solve the problem. And then, and that was, I use that as an upsell to an existing client. But not a workshop, but like I'm selling you a week of support, right? I will survey the situation, check in with you, touch base with everybody on the team, have a workshop, build a case for them individually. Everybody had backend engineers had backend engineering testing questions. The Svelte engineers had Svelte engineering questions. The front-end tester, the QA guys everybody was coming at the same problem from a different perspective. And he had amazing questions. And then there was a lot of but then it's, did you see our code base? And I was like, yes, actually, I saw your code base. I think this and this and this are the biggest opportunities. Like, yes, that. Can you tell us more about that? And then we had that. It was a few hours done. And then that follow-up call the next week, that was the big win. Not the workshop itself, right? Right. So I think Simon Sinek says this a lot. It's like, you will meet, it's like success will meet you at your lowest level of preparation, right? So the more you're prepared for something, the higher the ceiling the higher the chances for success. So I basically helped them prepare for the meeting while I was preparing for the meeting. And the really crucial meeting was that second basically coaching call after the workshop, because that's what I'm good at, right? I don't care about presenting about TDD or testing, to a cold audience, because that's, everybody can do that. So it's not that fun. But that, like, orchestrating that together, like, that had a huge impact. And then I got a lot of positive feedback from the team. It's like, yeah, it's actually, like, it's hitting home. Like, we actually managed to address the most important bits. I saw your message. I managed to address the most important bits and help the team move forward. And now I'm hearing that, they're putting it into practice and it's having a positive impact, because it's hard. It's hard to introduce testing with a team, because obviously you think unit testing will be the easiest thing. Like, unit testing is the smallest thing, but it's very difficult in a legacy code base if you don't know how to do that. And end-to-end testing is the biggest thing, but it's easy and it's the biggest waste. So the easy stuff is wasteful, the small stuff is hard. So the answer is somewhere in the middle. And if you've never done this before, if you're not very good at like legacy modernization or introducing continuous delivery to an untestable code base, you just don't understand the economics well. You're not experienced enough to make these judgment calls. Like, should we invest into this or should we not? And then I think we really nailed down the main pain points. So that was cool. That was another big win. So for 2025, you have to go in 10 minutes. I just saw your message. What are your goals for 2025? Like, what's definitely changing? What are you aiming at?
To actually aligning to one specific mission better, um, to not do too many things. So I don't want to have a testing year anymore. I want to have a year where I'm doing something
Execution.
specific,
Mm-hmm.
and working towards one or two big things, but not 10 different things. And everything else simply aligns behind that, but doesn't interfere or disturb that. Like I had that I was doing, I don't know, 250 videos or something like that
Mm-hmm.
this year on LinkedIn and
Shorts,
Substack
yeah.
and stuff like shorts. And I was doing a lot of content on Substack. I was doing podcasts. I was doing videos. I was doing so many things actually, live
Mm-hmm.
streams. I was doing a lot with Descript. This was a big Descript year, so I was doing so much things
Yeah.
in so many things at the same time. Graphical stuff, a lot of graphical stuff, a lot of writing. I had a streak of 62 newsletters actually in a row, and
Weekly, right? Or how was it?
weekly. It was the
Yeah,
Substack
yeah.
streak, and then I forgot it on some day, and I actually broke my streak. But yeah, never mind. It is a little bit like those kind of those things were interfering and crossing each other. So sometimes I focused on that, and then I had not enough time for that because each of these individual things were important to me, and that was wrong. Simply because I can't be a video creator, a newsletter writer, a company founder, a family
Mm-hmm.
father, and those kind of things. It is a little bit too much, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was the reason why it looked like I am not consistent. Actually, I was personally very consistent, but not on each of those lanes, right? Each of these lanes already experienced or always experienced these ups and downs, but they weren't consistent. I was consistent, but I was working inconsistently on each of those kind of things. And that was a big problem. I want to change that. So only doing, like, say, the video content is my primary content now. I don't want to write that much anymore, and I don't want to post daily on LinkedIn anymore. That is what I don't want to do anymore. So I will change that. I will still do it with LinkedIn, but not in a way because I realize that it is, for what I want to do, actually quite a waste of time. Because it is there is no target audience where you actually can speak to. It's interesting for many people to engage with, but nothing happens because there is no product behind that. And when I want to have less problems with my product and my company, I need to focus more on the product of the company. That's a simple equation. I was a little bit ignoring this year because I wanted to test so many things, and that is what I mean by aligned. So I need to talk more about being a founder, creating a product, talk about these things. That's more interesting and more aligning than actually talking too much about leadership, which is quite interesting. But
Mm-hmm.
I am not a full-time leadership instructor or something like that. That's not my thing, at least not now. And so I need to focus on these kind of things. That is what I want to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so YouTube will be very interesting for me because that is how I express myself best. I can express my topics best. I can talk about less about only leadership. I can talk about creating products. I can talk about JavaScript. I can talk about React. Those are my favorite topics when it comes to hands-on. I can talk about why you should develop like I do, for example, and why not. So those kind of things are interesting for me. And how is it to get on the market? How is it to find clients? We have new things like this new DORA thing right now, which is the European version of a new GDPR thing.
Oh yeah, not that DORA, like the other.
The European
it's,
DORA,
it's
right?
another DORA, yeah, EU DORA.
It's a
Yeah.
new DORA, right? And,
Mhm.
and what these kind of impacts even have on smaller companies, those kind of things, topics are actually more interesting for me actually than
Digital
just talk about
Operational Resilience Act. Like, what
it.
what
It's
a
awful.
silly,
Yeah,
what,
but
what a
anyway,
silly
it's like a GDPR on steroids thing.
Yeah, but it's risk management, data, like AI, Gen AI, exposure, privacy concerns. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, so
exposure to
aligning,
cloud
more
hosts.
aligning. And I will do, for example, on Substack, I will make most of the stuff free, right? There will be some paid thing. It is a little bit like the videos, from me when I'm talking about things. Those kind of things will be more actually behind the paywall. That's what I want to do. I thought to myself, it's a huge effort to make those videos over the year, a huge effort. And there's basically I'm actually in the negative with those videos because the production costs of that video are actually higher than the actual outcome of those. And even though they are very interested, so there are, let's say, people are interested, it simply doesn't work. And then there is this long format thing on YouTube, which does make way more sense to be free and to be talking about those things. And the streams, of course, there is enough things, but
it's more easily monetizable on YouTube. Your YouTube, when you started focusing on video, because we went from, hey, we're doing a stream, do you want to do YouTube? And you said, I don't want to do YouTube, I just want to stream on LinkedIn. And then we did video, but we said, we're not focusing on YouTube, we're doing LinkedIn. And then Substack came in and it's like, oh, Substack has video, let's do that. And then we did the podcast on LinkedIn and Substack while using YouTube as a backup, while not focusing on YouTube. And then finally, in the end, we said, okay, YouTube, LinkedIn video is nice, but it's not TikTok.
It doesn't work.
Substack video is nice, but we don't have the right format for that. So you said then, let's go, I'm going to go all in on YouTube. And your YouTube videos are amazing. Like once you adopted that stance of you will optimize the format of your videos to what works well on YouTube, your channel just started, Snackable CTO started immediately growing, and that's amazing, and that was great to see, right? Because that finally we did, you got the data, you had some reservations, you got the data, and now it's like, okay, let's do this, and I really love that focus and dedication, because it didn't require a whole year's worth of experimentation to fairly really try all of these platforms.
Actually, that was what was driving me into this situation some weeks ago, when too many things happened, and I just said I don't do content right now. That was a sudden sudden, let's say, pause to my YouTube channel as well, which was heartbreaking for me. The only thing I really missed was my YouTube channel not going further, but it is in fact several hours of work to create a video, so it's not like just record something and load it. It's not working like that. It's about 4 to 5 hours a week, and it was like I really had no time anymore. And I'm not talking about I just spent my hours in some other, let's say, not so important things. No, I really talking about I was working up to 20 hours a day, and even on weekends and stuff like that. And that is definitely on some point where you realized you've done too many things at the same time, and you need to start to focus more on something. And so I needed to take a break and pull the brake. That's what I've done. And now I'm getting into speed again, and I'm really thinking about how I want to structure that, focusing on the YouTube part and having still this shorter videos, but have them more as a very short coaching session thing, which you can actually buy. Just if you want to have that, you can get that. It's not a problem, but then please support that, because it's one thing to just come. Today we can consume so much stuff, right? But there's not much stuff which is actually totally valuable. Most of the stuff is entertainment, what you can consume. But if you really want to create short videos nearly daily, with good content, valuable content, that's actually hard work. You need to have a backlog. You need to think about things. You need to refine things. You need to edit those things. You need to push those things. You need to be willing to do that every day. That is what I don't want to do just for free anymore, because I don't see any return whatsoever from that. I see a lot of return from the live streams, actually. So I made some money out of that in the 6-figure area. For cloud
lead generation, right? So your main company, the product that you built, benefited from your authority building and exposure on these streams and the content.
And I see something similar on YouTube, which is very similar from the idea. So real talk about the actual business, not so much about
most of my comments are also either somebody referred me or somebody. It's very rare, but somebody people don't tell me I saw your post on LinkedIn. People just tell me you're on my feed all the time. They might not be able to recall what it was exactly, but I'm on their feed all the time for like continuous delivery or quality or like leadership focus. And then they reach out to me, right? So the content is, LinkedIn is more about frequency and just having like frequent touch points with similar to email. Whereas the feedback when I get told I watched that stream, that is always almost always particular to one episode that you and I had on a particular topic.
Yeah.
What I would change, however, is it doesn't really make sense to convert these, like on LinkedIn, to convert these streams into follows or likes or reposts, because it's, it's a handful of high quality conversations with our audience, not reach. So what I have been thinking about is, because I have been experimenting with another stream with Grow CTO, with their webinars, right? So and my book club, which became a problem when my kids went to kindergarten, to daycare, because I couldn't.
Yeah.
I couldn't commit the time anymore. But I met Kent Beck, I met Dave Farley this year, I met Sander Hugendorn, I met Chris Hallman, who is the lead on DevRel on We Are Developers, conference organizers. So I definitely want to continue this format, but I think it will make much more sense to keep it, to enable a private channel where I either DM everybody who shows up on these streams, and or we start collecting emails, right? So that engineering leaders, especially when they show up to these streams, that we have that register button on LinkedIn, and then they tell us, hey, do you want to stay in touch? And I think we should send them, hey, if this is what Adrian is doing, he's building this product, and you can hire him as a mentor. And this is what I'm doing. I'm coaching teams and I'm helping them facilitate, a journey towards more testing and continuous delivery automation. And so I think it will make much more sense if you and I created an email product that we then tied to basically collecting leads in a more traditional fashion on these webinars, rather than just broadcasting it to the LinkedIn feed, because it sort of disrupts the touch point. So that is definitely I want to commit to experimenting with in the new year. But that means that our viewers will have to click the register button to get the link to the videos, which might also cause more friction. But I saw it performed really well on the web, on the Grow CTO webinars.
There must be some interest in the end, because you can't just give everything for free, and then talk about the stream everything, and no one will actually do something. That's a problem with resistance, of course, as well, because people are actually lazy. We all are lazy at some point, and I never click on anything when there is no call to action in whatever way, because why should I need to go somewhere. Where do I need to go, right? There might be something when I really need it, I go there, but not if I'm not needed, and that's one of those points. And I think the private community idea is very good. I have something similar with that paywall thing as well. Let's take a look. I actually have to go. I wish you a great day. Sorry, I really need to go.
It's okay.
Dennis, thanks a lot for this year regarding
Happy holidays to you and your family and to everybody watching.
And we will see you the next year then. We will schedule something and go on next year. I wish you a great day. Everyone,
thank you so much, Adrian.
Goodbye. See you next year.
Goodbye. Ciao. Everyone, I'll do sign off. I'll do some quick elevator music. From my side, huge thanks for being part of these streams. This channel, if you're watching on YouTube, started off as the Technologist podcast, where I had people that I found interesting that I wanted to learn from. So one of my first guests was Ty, then Goran from Croatia, product owners, product managers, and then branching out to coaches. We had Adam Dimitruk on, the father figure behind event modeling. Then I had Sander Hugendorn on. I had A lot of had Milan on. Like we had a lot of different topics throughout the journey of this channel. And then I met Adrian, and Adrian was doing something similar around the time. And we had Nick Shoemaker on. Yeah, we had who else? I'm forgetting someone important. And the first, we had 12 episodes at the beginning. So Milan, Adrian, Jason Gorman, Valentina Zupac, Sam Williams, and Jonathan Hall. Yeah, and Casey Watts. So yeah, I thought that was a cool episode. So that's how this channel started. It quickly became interesting to me and Adrian and our communities. We noticed that our communities are similar. We identified like a very interesting overlap between we capture a lot of engineers who are feeling the pain of the problems we're solving, right? So we're dealing with leadership problems and process problems, and usually the people it resonates the most with is the engineers who feel the leadership dysfunction. But our target clients are the leaders and the more senior, more staff-oriented people in that organization, which is really interesting. So we sort of put our heads together and started combining our efforts. So that's how this channel was shaped. Then we renamed it, and that was like the big takeaway for this channel from this year, is that we branded it Our Tech Journey, and I think that brand is now staying. And we're just going to elevate it into a little bit more of a traditional setup where we will target it a little bit more towards leaders, a little bit more towards engineers who want to stay in touch regarding community events or coaching or mentoring or learning new things. Plus, something unexpected, a positive that happened is that from these streams, I got invited to speaking engagements. And then I was able to invite in people I met from the stream or my clients, and then we met in person and we had like a little mini meetup. So I think that was like a happy accident. And the next year I want to focus on doing that deliberately. So maybe we'll have Our Tech Journey meetups, or a meetup, our first meetup somewhere. And then I would primarily facilitate the organization of that, the logistics of that, the communication of that, and the agenda through this channel, both on YouTube and on LinkedIn, and try to experiment that we mentioned with Adrian. Plus, in my coaching business, I'm really happy how things are going, and just gonna accelerate and elevate execution, similar to what Adrian was talking about. So, done a lot of experiments in 2024. A lot of things turned out really, really well, and now it's just polish and streamlining the value prop going forward. Yeah, super exciting year. 2025 is going to be even better. Thank you so much for being a regular, or if you're new, hello. You'll see more of us after the new year. See you soon. Happy holidays. Ciao.